103.1 WRNR. I'm Alex Cortright. Fascination with the Roaring '20s has never really abated. It was the era of prohibition, speakeasies, and of course, great American music. Think Louis Armstrong, Fletcher Henderson, Duke Ellington. Songwriting from this period is peerless. Cole Porter, George Gershwin, Irving Berlin, Jerome Kern. Now, in 1999, Bryan Ferry released an album called As Time Goes By, a joyful celebration of music from the 1930s. Another wonderful decade for music. And now the singer of Roxy Music returns with the Bryan Ferry Orchestra and an album called simply The Jazz Age. Good morning, Bryan.
Good morning. Hi.
Thank you so much for taking some time today.
It's a pleasure.
So, Bryan, I started listening to the new album, The Jazz Age, and I noticed pretty quickly that there was something unexpected. There was no you.
Yeah, I'd been wanting to do an instrumental album for many years, and this is it. Last year we were doing a kind of celebratory box set of celebrating, I guess, 40 years of recording with. This was all the kind of Roxy Music tracks that we put on a box set, all the studio recordings, and it seemed like a good year to do that, to do an instrumental record, where it would kind of showcase me as the songwriter rather than the singer. And we decided to do it in the start of the 20s, which is kind of the first music, jazz music from that period, is what I first listened to when I was about 10 years old in 1955, yeah.
The Jazz Age, this record of yours, this new album, sounds as though it were actually recorded 90 years ago. I mean, it sounds like an old Victor or a Columbia 78.
That's right. We wanted to make it sound old, and so like an old relic from the period, you know.
Yeah.
So we kind of we liked that idea of a distressed sound, and we did actually have the option to make it hi-fi, obviously, because we had the technology to make things sound very pure, but it seemed to have much more charm when we distressed it. We used, in fact, vintage microphones when we were doing it, and you have all the guys playing together in a room like in the old days with like a central room microphone.
Right.
We also had individual instruments mic'd up as well in case we needed more level. But no, it was done with a great feel, and the guys I used are people I worked with 12 years ago. Most of them played on As Time Goes By, which was an album of 1930s music that I did. And I subsequently did a long tour with them.
I saw that tour in 1999 at the 930 Club in Washington, and it was just great.
Yeah, well, it was fun, that tour, and it was great kind of being on stage with all those wonderful acoustic instruments.
Yeah.
Normally I'm known for being on there with screaming guitars, you know, and, which is also great. But to have all the saxophones, trombones, trumpets, and the various mutes they use, and it's very, very... it's good for a singer to have those sounds swirling around, you know.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of fun. Well, speaking of touring and being on the road, are there any plans to take this music out and perform it?
Yes, there are. We've got some jazz festivals lined up in Europe during the summer, and we're going to do a comprehensive tour of the UK later in the year in October, November. I'd love to bring it to America, you know, which is the home of the music.
Yes.
And but we'll see. It's something I'd like to do, though.
Okay, very good. Well, we'll keep our fingers crossed because we'd love to have you back and play this music. You know, it brings me back to the album, of course, the Bryan Ferry Orchestra, The Jazz Age. It must have been difficult, I would think, at least on some level, to make the song choices. These are all your songs from your career as a solo artist and with Roxy Music. And how did you whittle it down to this particular collection? I
guess by trial and error. You know, we thought we'd have a few of the songs which were well-known ones, like Love is the Drug or, you know, Slaves to Love or whatever, and balance that with some lesser-known pieces and some from the Roxy catalogue and others from the solo albums. And so I think we got a pretty kind of comprehensive look at the career I've had. There's even a song from the latest album I did called Olympia, which is actually my favorite track on the album, is that song, Reason or Rhyme. So it was good to get one of the more recent songs and give it the treatment, as it were.
Yeah, Reason or Rhyme sounds terrific. And actually that's followed by Virginia Plain, which is the first Roxy song I ever heard, which was a long time ago.
Yeah, that was our first Roxy single, yeah. And it's great hearing it with this kind of bubbling kind of Creole clarinet that leads on that song. And The trumpet player is terrific, Rico Tommaso. He also played years ago with me on as time goes by. And he actually met Louis Armstrong when he was 7 years old. He played to him when he was visiting England, yeah.
Wow.
And so that's a nice little story.
Connecting this band directly to the source.
To the source, exactly. And the main inspirations were the kind of those Armstrong bands when he was played with King Oliver, and when he played on his own in his Hot 5 and Hot 7.
Hot 5 and Hot 7,
yeah. And then also Duke Ellington from New York.
And Cotton Club.
New York Cotton Club, where he played with his orchestra, which was kind of the more arranged pieces that we did with the clarinets and so on, more sophisticated, more urbane sounding than the New Orleans stuff. But interesting, it all happened in the same decade. It was all happening in the 20s.
Not only a decade for music, but for literature and art. It was such an exciting time.
It was a very exciting time. A lot of great things beginning in Europe. You know, we had Evelyn Waugh, the novelist. In America, you had Scott Fitzgerald, who chronicled the period incredibly well. A film of his great American novel, you know, The Great Gatsby, is coming out in May.
Yes.
And we have some music on the soundtrack of that film, so we're very excited about that. Found a home for some of this music already.
Okay, great. And that's the songs from the Jazz Age that'll be on the soundtrack for The Great Gatsby. Yeah,
there's a couple of pieces and stuff that was commissioned that we did specially for it, yeah.
I see. Oh, that's a lot of fun. Yeah. Terrific. Well, you know, Bryan, it's been a big few months for you. Congratulations on your marriage of last month.
Yes, thank you very much.
Yeah, that's a big
I'm now
thing.
an honest man, yeah. It's been a very good period. We've been doing lots of work in my studio, you know, working on this Jazz Age album and also working on a future project that hopefully will be seeing the light of day, you know, before too long, which is an album of new songs and stuff.
Oh, good. So this is a Bryan Ferry solo project?
Yes, that would be... hopefully at the end of the year, if not in the spring following. And,
I also wanted to mention that you were made a commander of the Order of the British Empire by the Queen in November.
Yeah.
That's pretty big, too. Yeah,
it was a great honor for me. And at the same time, I got this Légion d'honneur in Paris.
Yes.
French government. So it was amazing. Finally getting some true recognition. You know? I was very, very pleased. You know, it's, when you get any kind of approbation as an artist, you're delighted, you know, any sort of approval. And but this recognition from a kind of an unexpected source was great, actually. I was very touched by it.
I bet, and I wonder if that...
The sort of thing that your parents would like, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Indeed. I wonder if that doesn't make you pause for reflection for a moment and go, wow, you know, I've been able to make this body of work and share this art with a lot of people over the years, and clearly it's made an impact.
Yeah, it's absolutely that. And it was very, very, very good. It's good to feel that.
Indeed. Bryan Ferry, thank you so much for joining us on the airwaves of WRNR. All the very best with the new project, the Bryan Ferry Orchestra, The Jazz Age, a new record available through BMG, a fun collection. Grab a copy, ladies and gentlemen. Bryan, a pleasure speaking with you today.
A great pleasure to speak to you also, and I hope to see you on the road, hopefully.
I hope to see you, yes.
All the best.
All the best.
Thank you very much.